Ever booked a sales call to buy a product or service, and then someone ends up calling you 1 hour or 1 day before the call actually happens? Well, they do this because this actually works. Hearing a voice on the other side makes you feel like you have to attend the call now. And this tackles a big problem with online businesses, which is people not showing up. And the thing is that voice reminders double the show up rate compared to SMSs and boring emails. But the thing is that most people are hiring salespeople to do this for you, and that's expensive. And that's why I made the video for today, because I've built a fully automated voice reminder system that is going to call the leads for you in a very realistic voice in order to understand if they're going to attend the meeting or not, as well as answering any other questions that they have about your business or about the call. And this is going to save you a lot of hours and increase the revenue of your business. Without further ado, I'm going to show you how this works step by step. So the beauty of the system is that it's relatively easy to put together. The only hard part is building it from scratch, which I've already done for you. So no worries about that. So let me show you how this works. We start with the booking system. In this case, I chose cal.com because it has really good webhook integrations. And what we're doing essentially is once the person books, which I'll show you in a bit, we're sending a webhook to Airtable, all right, via n8n. And then we're collecting all sorts of information, such as the booking time, which is what we need in this next stage, the person's name, and also the phone number, amongst other things. Right, so once we have it here, we have some logic running in the background in n8n that determines if the booking time minus 1 hour equals now, which means that if the call is 1 hour away from happening, then we're going to send an HTTP request to VAPI, and that's going to send an outbound call to the lead's phone number, which we picked already before here, right? We have it on Airtable. So the call is going to happen between the lead and the AI assistant. And then once the call is done, we are going to collect some information and pass it to Airtable. Some of the information is if the person is attending and a transcript. We collect the attending part via something called structured data, which you're going to see how to do in VAPI. It's very easy to do. But that's pretty much it. That's the whole workflow. It shouldn't take you much to get together. So let me actually show you a demo on how this works. All right, so I'm in cal.com. You can grab a link from the software and in this booking page, and let's say I'm gonna grab a meeting at 1 p.m. Okay, I'm gonna put my phone number, and what is the meeting about? Well, the meeting about is about a sales call, additional calls, additional notes, sales call, whatever. Gmail, this and that. Okay, what I'm gonna do now is, since I have it all in test mode right now, I'm gonna test workflow, test the first workflow. I'm gonna hit confirm and my meeting is scheduled. This is gonna run the first workflow and we're sending this to Airtable, right? And now you see, here's my name, my email, my phone number, and the time in which the meeting is going to start, as well as a booking ID. So this is great. Now, right, so now we have the second workflow, which is going to run every 10 minutes. And every 10 minutes, we're going to check on Airtable if there's any meetings that are going to happen within the next hour or so. Okay, if that's the case, then we're going to go through the top branch and make a call to the AI voice agent, which is going to take that confirmation call for us in order to confirm if the lead is coming or not, as well as asking any questions. So now, in order to make this work, since there's some logic checking the times, we're going to change this to the current time. So, well, current day and time. So it's the 9th of May and it's 12:37 at night. So in an hour, it should be 1:37. So let's change that, 1:37 a.m. So now let's make the call. Let's trigger this and we should receive a call. There you go. And we're going to take it.
Hi, Frank Millard. This is Robert from Architect Studio. I'm calling to confirm your meeting scheduled at Friday, 9 May at 1:37 a.m. Will you be able to make it?
Yes, I will be able to make it, yes.
Great, we look forward to speaking with you. Do you have any other questions for me right now?
So how much is my lead acquisition system going to cost? So what's the typical cost for these type of systems?
The cost of a lead acquisition system varies greatly depending on your specific needs and the complexity of the system. Range from $2,000 to over $20,000. To give you a more accurate estimate, we need to discuss your requirements in more detail during our meeting. Anything else? If not, I'll let you go. See you then.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I have no other questions, so yeah, I'll see you soon.
Great, thank you for confirming. See you on the call.
So it ends the call automatically. And we see here now that we triggered this last workflow, which is going to send us some important information about that call that we just did. And if you go over here, you're going to see that, yes, indeed, we triggered the call. Is the person attending? Yes, it is. Well, we are attending. The status of the first call was success, right? So I actually had another column here in case if you wanted to retry to call the person, right? So it might be that the first time you might not be able to get a hold of the person, right? So you try to call that person 2 times, but I removed it to just keep things simple. And we also have a transcription over here. So pretty much everything that we discussed. So you can see, even though it's very simple and, we get a yes over here, it already does a lot. It already does a lot. The fact that we're able to call this person via voice, right? Instead of just sending a normal, boring SMS and email, which a lot of people ignore if they want to in purpose or not. So yeah, that's pretty much the entire system. Hopefully you understand the power of this, okay? It's a very simple system, but it can give you a lot of returns and save you a lot of time, right? Especially if you're dealing with high ticket sales. Because if you're able to understand here, if the person is not attending, right? It could be attending, but also it could be that they are rescheduling, which actually added some logic for that. They want to reschedule, or most importantly, they don't want to attend at all. Well, you're saving, half an hour of a call, or, you're saving that space for someone else that might actually be closed on that call. So yeah. So very good stuff. So you saw how it worked. It was very simple. And now I'm going to show you how it works. We're going to look at each of the nodes wherever possible. And yeah, okay, I'm going to take you through that right now. All right, so here in this first webhook, we are retrieving some information from cal.com. So what are we doing here? Well, if you go to your cal.com account, make sure to create an event type. And for that event type, you're going to be able to edit it. And once you edit it, you're going to see a couple options. You go down to webhooks and you're going to create that webhook. So if you go over here, okay, this subscriber URL is very important. So this is going to be the endpoint, the URL from the webhook over here. So you're going to open that and you might see that this one is a bit weird. It looks a bit weird because I'm using ls.io, so I'm self-hosting. Hostinger is also really good. So if you want a tutorial for self-hosting, I will leave a link down in the description for a video, which is going to show you how to self-host your own version of n8n with a very good provider as well, which is Hostinger. It's very easy for beginners. But anyways, you're going to grab that. Okay. Notice that we are in our test URL. Okay. So this is something that you're going to take into account. You see here, if you click production URL and test URL, you're going to see how that changes. So here you see webhook test and webhook. Okay. This is something that you have to remember for when, you actually take all this stuff into production. So when you take this stuff to production and you don't want to click test workflow all the time, you're going to have to hit active over here. Okay. Hit active. You're going to be able to hit active here as well and hit active here. Okay. You need to remember that so that it runs on autopilot. But once you do all of this, you need to remember wherever you add webhook addresses, right? You need to change it to the production URL. Okay, don't forget that. So once you build everything and you test the workflows and all that, that's what you need to do. Switch all these to active and then switch to the production URL. And then make sure wherever you're calling these workflows via the webhook URL, make sure to put in the production URL. Okay, the second one, this one. Right? But if you want to start testing now, just use the test URL as I mentioned. You're going to paste that there. Okay. You can leave this. I don't recommend it because we only need to know when a booking was created. So we'll leave it like that. I currently add no secrets, although you can add secrets, but then the workflow becomes a bit more involved. But I'm fine with this. Just make sure nobody knows about your URL. Not just like I did right now. Everybody knows my URL, but I'll probably change, the webhooks and all that so nobody access that. But yeah, you can do as well. You can ping test to make sure that you receive it. So you can listen to the webhook, listen for a test event, right? So I open the first node and then you can ping test over here and you'll see that you get a message. Webhook response passed, status 200, means that it worked. So you can see here that you get a tick, right? So that's good. If you want, you can just test the whole workflow and do the same thing. And you see, since we're running the whole thing, we're going to get a dummy piece of data as well. You can see we got Mr. John Doe here. So that's sample data from cal.com. But whenever you're happy, just hit create webhook. I can't do it because I already have one webhook with the same address, but it should work for you. Okay, so I'm going to go back and that's it. So you have that connected over in the first workflow. Now we can edit these fields, and what we're essentially doing here is this is just good practice. We're naming some variables that are going to be useful for later, such as name, email, start time, so that we don't have to go through this ourselves, right? We don't have to pick it every time in this large webhook node over here. Right, we have them accessible here. You're going to see this here in Airtable, right? Instead of going through these, we are just, picking one of these here. So here's where we are creating a row. We're adding it here. So we're essentially just dragging across, right? Name, email, phone, start meet, booking ID. We'll leave this blank. Yeah, let's refresh this because I actually removed the second thing. But yeah, you get the idea. And then we just do nothing. But it's kind of a nice thing to have at the end so that you know that we are doing nothing. Even the nodes that do nothing, it's nice to have something because it's doing nothing, right? Does that make sense? Because if you remove it here, we don't understand what's going on, right? We want to know that it's doing nothing. It's good practice, essentially. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's it for the first workflow. It's very simple. So now we get on the second workflow and we have a scheduled trigger here, which is running every 10 minutes. So the way this works is that, well, the events happen every 30 minutes. So running the poll every 10 minutes is good, right? Even every 20 minutes as well. As long as you don't get close to that every half an hour mark, it should be fine. If you want to be sure, run it every 5-10 minutes, right? The costs for running every workflow are really, really low, especially if you're self-hosting, it matters more, but once again, very little costs based on how much time this system is saving. So on Airtable, we are going to search on records, and this is some important logic that we add here. So this logic is essentially the thing that is we're searching for any records that pass through this formula, right? Here we can link the records. Essentially, we're first checking if we trigger the call already, because if we trigger the call already, then there's no point in calling again, unless, the call fails, as I explained before. If you want to do like a sequence where you call first and if it doesn't work, then you call again. But we're not doing this here to make things simple. But yeah, essentially we call the person already, so we don't need to call them again. So that's what it's doing. This is doing here, right? This expression here. If triggered call is equal not to yes, then we're going to check the date time of the start meet variable. And we're going to make sure it's less than 65 minutes from now and more than 55 minutes from now. So we're giving sort of a window. And that's because just to give it a bit more flexibility, right? We don't want it to be exactly 1 hour from now because the system, this node might not work, right? We're taking into account these edge cases where, it's going to happen exactly at a certain time. So we're leaving it a little bit loose. It's good practice, right? So we're going to return all. Actually, now that I think about it, if, more than one meeting is happening at the same time, we might want to have a loop here, right? Let's say you have multiple Airtable tables and you have two meetings happening simultaneously, right? Let's say two agents from two different events or, selling two different products, and we have two meetings happening at the same time. You might want to add a loop, right? So that we can run through all of the records. But since we only have one table, then there's no point, right? There's only one meeting that can happen in the next hour. So that's what we're going by here. Then we're making this HTTP request. Perhaps I should hide this. If it's there, well, I'm probably going to remove it. We're hitting this URL over here, sending headers, and then we are sending the following information. So where do we get all this information? You're going to see here, assistant ID, variable values, and whatnot, all that stuff. So for the assistant ID, so this is where we have to go to VAPI, all right? I'm not going to explain you the setup over here. So if you don't know what VAPI is an amazing platform that allows you to essentially launch your own voice AI agents. Okay, so definitely give it a try. Make your account. Let's go over here. Let's go back to my setup. Essentially, you can set up a lot of things. It's pretty good. It's made for developers. So the most important thing is setting the first message and the system prompt, which I have prepared here. I will leave everything that you see here, including the templates, everything in the school community, okay? So don't worry if you don't have anything. I will leave it all there. But essentially, we are putting a first message, we're adding a system prompt, and we're adding a file corresponding to this, okay? So the reason it was able to answer service costs is because I gave it this and I told it to access this. And if you see over here, our projects range anywhere from 20K to 2K from 20K, right? And this is the website. So this is my website over here. And yeah, let's go back to VAPI. So you need to set this up. The transcriber, I didn't change anything. You have some additional configuration. To make this more realistic, I added the background sound to Office. Just makes it really, really interesting to hear. Tools, you don't need to touch it, and enable end call function. So if you saw in the call, the demo call that I gave before, it actually hung up by itself, and you can give it the ability to do that. So by just selecting this. So I give it a summary as well, regarding a summary of the call. But then again, the important thing is this: you want the AI agent to understand if the call was successful or not. And that's what we're saying here. Essentially, we're given an automatic rubric, like some rules, but it's just determined it by itself. I left it to determine it by itself. And then one of the most important ones is this. So we are essentially collecting some structured data that is going to be used later to add on Airtable, right? Whenever you saw the attending thing, this is what it is, okay? So we're telling the AI agent to give us some structured object, right, in JSON. And well, the attending value is going to be yes, if the lead confirmed, no, or rescheduled. Okay, they ask to move the call, and then obviously the transcript. And then we actually add these things because we don't want to rely fully on the AI. I don't know exactly how this works in the background, but I'm guessing these are hard coded as JSON objects. You can mark them as required as well. I don't recommend it because the system could fail. And what else do we have? We have a bunch of other shenanigans. But yeah, this is probably the important thing here. So if you could scroll all the way down, you can go straight over here in advanced and scroll a bit more down. You're going to see the server settings. So this is the same thing. We're sending everything after the call to this server URL. You can add a secret token to make it more secure, and yeah, timeout doesn't matter that much. The server URL. Okay, and you see here that I have a webhook test, right? But whenever you set everything, I'm gonna say it again, because most of you are not gonna remember this. Whenever you set these to active, okay, AKA you want them to work on autopilot in the background, right? Remember to remove this, all right? Remember to remove that, because then it's not gonna work, all right? So you can send some messages, right? Post call. This is all happening post call. So this is things we're receiving after the call. You're gonna send some idle messages if there's some weird pauses. Perhaps you're grabbing some lunch or something and you're eating and you forgot to answer back. Then it's gonna say, "Are you still there?" So this is really interesting. It's a really full set of tools and you can customize this so well. Sometimes it scares me how human this sounds. And you can control the cost by changing the model as well. Changing the provider, it's really complete. Changing the temperature, you want it to be more creative, less creative, max number of tokens that it will allow to generate in each turn. So whenever it's their time to talk, right? Because we take turns whenever we speak. But yeah, it's really advanced and they added more features, which, if you want me to talk through, in another video, you want me to go through any of these, perhaps the squads, which is very interesting. So this is like multi-agent systems, but for voice agents. It's really, really smart. Let me know and I can go through these. But yeah, that's what's going on here. So the interesting thing over here is the stuff I'm passing. So I have this object called assistant overrides. And what this is doing is that it's sending some data that I want the agent to know in the call. For example, the name of the person and the start time. If you remember, if you go back to the demo, you're going to see that it greets me with my name, right? Which is something pretty human. I suppose. And it also remembers the start time. So, hey Fran, are you going to attend the meeting at X day, X time? And it says that because I'm passing it before the call happens. So when I'm sending it the trigger, so when I send in the instructions for the call to start, I'm also sending this stuff. And also I'm sending this record ID over here, even though it's not mentioning it. I need it for later, because later I need to match the Airtable ID so that I'm able to add the new information, right? Which is information regarding if the person is attending or not. So I'm passing this through VAPI so that it spits it out after the call as well, right? On the third workflow. So this is a great way for passing data through, right? With this assistant overrides property here. So really cool stuff. And obviously you need the number here, right? So this is how you do inbound calls. You trigger the agent externally. In cases where you're not using this and you're configuring everything here, it's very likely that you're receiving calls inbound. But if you want to do outbound, you launch a JSON request, for example, like this, because we have the number that we are calling. And this is all coming from Airtable, as you see, right? The Airtable node, which is behind me over here, right? So now we have this logic. Essentially, we're saying, well, if this triggers, wait, where am I right now? Oh yeah, I went through this already, isn't it? Yeah, sorry, my bad. I went through this already. It's 1 a.m., that's why. I meant here. So yeah, this is all coming from the Airtable thing behind. But yeah, nothing happens, then we do nothing. It's just a visual way of seeing that it does nothing. And yeah, once the call ends, then we are sending some information. So we're not doing much in this case, in this scenario. We're just letting the person know, whoever is seeing the Airtable, that the call was triggered. We actually sent the call. Great, we're not receiving any information from this call over here, right? Because this call, once it finishes, in order to send information, as you saw here, we need a webhook. And sure, we could add the webhook here below, but in order to keep everything separate and neat, we added on this next workflow. So this is essentially the URL that we are adding. Where is it? Sorry, we are adding here on VAPI. Call complete, right? Call complete, call complete. Don't forget the production URL when you're done. This is a post request and we respond immediately. Then we have the if. So this is something important. When the call finishes, especially inactive, right? Because the thing is that I've been testing the workflow a couple of times and it sends messages to this same webhook once the call started, whilst the call is on, when the call is finished, and also after the call is finished, right? Because after the call is finished, it's generating this thing called an end of call report. And this is what we're looking for. This is what contains all of the information about the attending thing and the transcript, right? We need this. And also we need the table, well, mainly this, but we need that. And that is what's happening here, okay? So that's why here we are only allowing the workflow to continue if what we're receiving in the webhook is an end of call report, okay? Perhaps I'm gonna trigger this call again so that you see what I'm talking about. It might not make a lot of sense now. So let's go to Airtable again, 905, let's do this one. Let's delete all the stuff again, success. Right, so it's 105, so let's do 205 and let's hit test workflow, receive a call.
Hi, Frank Miller. This is Robert from Architect Studio. I'm calling to confirm your meeting scheduled at Friday, 9 May at 2:05 a.m. Will you be able to make it?
Yes.
Great. We look forward to speaking with you. Do you have any other questions for me right now?
Nope.
Perfect. See you on the call. Goodbye.
Bye.
Great. Thank you for confirming. See you on the call.
Right. So you see how it triggers again and it triggers one more time, right? So we see that we're receiving a couple of things on the webhook over here. And so there's this thing that happens. So when the call ends, it says call finished or something. I don't know. I remember the type it was. But you see here the type for this one is end of call report. But you saw also the other messages got sent before. So those are other types of webhook messages. And we don't want those. We want the ones. So let me go down over here. Okay, so you see over here, this is what we want. So attending yes, transcript yes. But also you're gonna see, okay, I don't wanna scroll because phone number's there. But somewhere over there are the variables. So this is what I was looking for. So this input here, so you remember these variables, right? These variable values, name, start time, Airtable record ID, right? Where did this come from? Well, this came from over here when I was calling it. We saw here the assistant override, right? So this is this, right? We need our table record ID. I'll show you why. Well, you know why. Look, right here. So we need to find the column corresponding to the call that we just had. If you remember, throughout all of the process, right, from first automation to third automation, we are using the same row, right? We were adding the booking details onto that row, right? We were adding stuff again. We're using information from that row to make the call because that had the phone number as well. And we're using it all the time. So we need to carry with us that Airtable ID. So that's what we're using to match. And we're also adding, well, those important things at the end, which I showed you before. The person is attending, yes, and the transcription. And if the call was a success. One other thing that I want to mention is the time zones, okay? So over here, I got a bit spooked at some point because the schedule trigger, if you open this, let's test this out. You see here that the schedule trigger is in American New York time. Luckily, we did not have to use this data for the meeting times, but just as a reminder, I want you to understand that, when you set this up, make sure that the times here, okay, the time location, right, the time settings here correspond to the time settings in Airtable. Okay, so you see here, there's a little notch here. It says CES. Okay, that's just the time zone that we're at. Make sure the time zones match because then this might break, this might not work. Okay. Very important. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, I forgot this. So for phone numbers, I realized that phone numbers have a limitation in VAPI, right? If you buy a phone number with VAPI, for example, right, through VAPI. So there's different ways of creating a phone number. You can get a free VAPI number or an SIP, but they have limitations when it comes to doing outbound calls. When it's inbound, people are calling to that number, that's fine. But when you are calling to other numbers, VAPI has a limitation. It allows you only a certain number of calls every day. So if you want to overcome that limitation, then you can import a Twilio number, for example, right? How do I do this? Well, you're going to go to Twilio, you're going to create your account, and you're going to buy a phone number. So you can, where is it? Phone numbers. Here, manage, buy a number. And then you go ahead and buy a phone number. So the choice is yours. You buy whatever. You go ahead and buy one. And once you have one, then you can go later to VAPI and add that phone number and also add the Twilio account SID, the auth token, and add some labels. So where do you get these two? You go back here and you then, so if you hit an account dashboard, then you can go down and here is the account SID and the auth token. You're gonna copy those and you're gonna come back to VAPI, add all that shit, and you should be good to go. Vonash is another good one. And I think that's it. That's all you have to do. I mean, I know it was a bit long, but I pretty much explained everything that you have to do. If you want these templates already with all the prompts, already for VAPI and all that, and all the workflows on n8n, go ahead on and join the community, okay? You should have all of it there. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed the video and you saw value in this, please let me know, give me a thumbs up and a follow. I would appreciate it lots. And yeah, if you want to tell me anything else about the video, let me know in the comments, okay? That's it. Any suggestions for next videos, let me know as well. And that's it. I have nothing else. Well, there's some interesting stuff coming in the next month, so stay tuned. I will see you in a bit.